my sisters, my daughters, my friends. Today, I want to speak to you, to this invisible but powerful circle that connects all the women on this earth. I want to talk to you about something that the world sometimes seems to forget. Wisdom. To be a wise woman, it is not a privilege reserved for a few. It is a path, a choice, a presence that each of us can embody. In this world that pushes us to run, to speak loudly, to constantly prove our worth, it is time to remember that true power does not need noise. It resides in silence, in calmness, in that gentle but firm voice that emanates from within. I know we have all been wounded. We have worn masks to protect ourselves. We have sometimes believed that to be respected we had to be tough. But what I want to tell you today, my sisters, is that gentleness and wisdom are not a weakness. They are a sacred strength. They are the breath that lifts us, the clear gaze that sees beyond appearances, the sure step that walks toward its truth without being disturbed by the chaos of the world. To be wise is to learn to listen before speaking. It is to understand that each silence is a message, that each pause is a prayer, that each breath is a response. It is to know that our power does not come from what others say about us, but from what we decide to be. So today, I invite you to walk with me on this path. A path that does not require noise, no spectacle, no struggle. Only a deep presence, an attention to oneself, an openness to what life seeks to teach us. Here, in this space that we share, we are going to explore what it means to be a wise woman. We are going to learn to listen to our intuition, to observe without judging, to protect our energy, and to radiate that light that never goes out. If these words resonate in your heart, if you feel this call to rediscover your gentle and quiet power, then stay here. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe. Feel this link that unites all of us. And above all, my sister, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, not because it is a simple action on a screen, but because it is a commitment to yourself, a step toward your transformation. Each video will be an invitation to find yourself, to honor yourself, to remember that you are already that wise woman you are seeking to become. So together, let's move forward on this journey, hand in hand, heart to heart in the light and the silence, because the world needs wise women, and because, my sister, you too, you are this world. Female wisdom, my sister, is not a concept found in school books, nor a formula that can be explained with simple definitions. It is not limited by words, nor confined to theories. Female wisdom is a vibration, a presence, an ancient breath that lives in each of us, even when we have forgotten it, even when the modern world has led us astray from it. It sleeps in our silences, it hides in our tears, it dances in our laughter, and it awaits the moment when we finally choose to turn toward it to listen. To understand female wisdom is first to understand that it has nothing to do with what the world calls intelligence. Intelligence can be measured, compared, proven. It can be displayed in diplomas, titles, and speeches. But wisdom, it does not seek to be proven. It is lived in simplicity, in the depth of a gaze, in the silence of a choice, in the gentleness of a gesture made with love. Wisdom is not a noise that attracts attention. It is a quiet force that makes itself felt, that does not scream but that exists, immutable, eternal. A wise woman knows that her worth does not need to be shouted to the world because she already carries it within her. She knows that the answers she seeks outside are often there, in the depths of her heart, where her inner voice speaks to her, gentle but clear. This wisdom is not nourished by agitation or external validation. It is nourished by truth, presence, and calm. And to access this truth, my sister, you must learn to listen to yourself. There is, in female wisdom, this sacred capacity to understand the world beyond what is seen. Where others see only events, she sees lessons. Where others perceive only obstacles, she feels opportunities to grow. Where others get lost in the noise, she finds an inner space to recenter herself. It's not that she is stronger or more intelligent. It's that she has learned to observe, to feel, to step back in order to act with clarity. There is a profound difference, my sisters, between reacting with emotion and acting with consciousness. Reacting with emotion is to let our wounds, our fears, our anger dictate our words and our actions. It is to respond in haste, without having taken the time to breathe, without having let the storm calm down. And in those moments, even a woman with the purest heart can let herself be carried away by words she will later regret, by decisions that were not in alignment with her soul. But to act with consciousness is something else. It is to take that time, that breath, that silence before acting. It is to observe one's emotions, to welcome them without letting them control us. A woman who acts with consciousness is not cold. She is not distant. She is deeply connected. She feels her emotions, but she does not drown in them. She knows that her emotions are messengers, not masters. And it is in that sacred space between emotion and action that true female power is born. We live in a world that glorifies speed, impulsivity, immediate action. We are pushed to respond right away, to prove that we always have an answer, always an opinion, always something to say. But female wisdom invites us to slow down, not to rush, to understand that true power does not come from speaking loudly, but from knowing when to speak and when to be silent. There is in this slowness, in this patience, an immense beauty. A woman who takes the time to feel before responding is not weak, she is free. Free to choose her words, free to choose her actions, free to choose her energy. She does not let herself be carried away by the chaos of others. She remains centered in her own axis, stable as a mountain, gentle as a river, but unshakable in her truth. Female wisdom cannot blossom without a deep connection to oneself. And this connection, my sisters, requires courage. Because to connect with oneself is to look at oneself with honesty, without masks, without illusions. It is to accept one's strengths, but also one's flaws. It is to welcome one's shadow parts with the same tenderness as one's parts of light. A woman who knows herself becomes a woman who respects herself, and a woman who respects herself becomes a woman whom the world naturally respects. Self-connection begins with small things. Taking the time each day to sit in silence, to breathe, to feel one's body, to listen to oneself. Writing down one's thoughts, emotions and dreams. Walking in nature, far from the noise, to remember that we are part of a greater whole. Meditating, praying, or simply staying in that calm that allows our mind to rest. It is these moments, simple but sacred, that nourish our wisdom. When we are disconnected from ourselves, we become vulnerable to the noises of the world. We seek answers in the eyes of others, in their opinions, in their judgments. We exhaust ourselves wanting to please, to conform, to be validated. But the more we connect with ourselves, the more we understand that we have nothing to prove. We are already enough. We have always been enough. Female wisdom, my sister, is not a destination to be reached. It is a path, a journey that lasts a lifetime, a journey that teaches us each day to know ourselves better, to love ourselves better, to love others better. It is not a perfect path. There will be detours, storms, moments when we will doubt. But each step, even the smallest, brings us closer to that woman we are called to become, a woman who is free, whole, and anchored in her truth. And I tell you, my sister, this path is not just for you. It is for all the women who look at you, who listen to you, who are inspired by you without you even knowing it. Each time you choose calm over chaos, each time you choose consciousness over impulse, you show the way. You become a light in a world that is running everywhere without knowing why. Female wisdom is a legacy. It comes from our mothers, from our grandmothers, from all those women before us who have gone through the fire, who learned in pain, who passed on in silence. It flows in our veins, in our gestures, in our dreams. And each time we stop to listen, to honor this inner voice, we continue this sacred thread, this invisible link that connects us to all those who came before and to all those who will come after. So, my sister, if you want to understand your wisdom, start by stopping. Breathe, listen, observe. Don't try to understand everything at once. Don't try to control everything. Wisdom is not in control, it is in trust. Trust in yourself, trust in life, trust in this path that is drawn step by step beneath your feet. And remember this, every moment is an opportunity to practice this wisdom. Every word you choose, every gesture you make, every silence you honor is a prayer, an offering, proof of that gentle power that lives within you. You don't need to force things. You don't need to prove your worth. You only need to remember. Because, my sister, female wisdom is not something you have to learn from the outside. It is already there. It is waiting for you to stop, to breathe, to open your eyes, and to finally say yes to the one you truly are. The pillars of the wise woman. To be a wise woman, my sister, is not built in a day nor even in a year. It is a path, a slow walk where we learn, where we sometimes stumble, but where we always get back up. And on this path, there are pillars, foundations, that allow this wisdom to take deep root, like the roots of a great tree that stands firm even in storms. These pillars are three: intuition, patience, and compassion. They are not separate from each other. They nourish, complement, and strengthen each other, thus creating the soul of a woman who walks in her truth. Intuition, my sister, is that gentle whisper that lives within you, that small voice that speaks to you in silence, in the depths of your being. It does not shout, it does not force you, it simply waits for you to be ready to hear it. Intuition is that sacred link between you and the invisible, between your spirit and that greater wisdom that guides you. Too often we have learned to silence it, to doubt it, to despise it, because the world has taught us to believe only in what can be seen, measured, and proven. But a wise woman knows that truth is not always found in what is tangible. She knows that sometimes what her heart whispers to her is worth more than 1,000 logical reasonings. Listening to one's intuition is not being irrational. It is not ignoring reality. It is learning to trust oneself, to honor that deep sensitivity that the world sometimes calls weakness, but which in reality is an immense strength. It is that sixth sense that warns you of a danger before it manifests. It is that strange, but right, feeling that pushes you toward a meeting, a decision, a path. A wise woman knows that her intuition is a precious compass, but for it to work, one must learn silence. Because intuition does not speak in chaos, it does not manifest in noise. It reveals itself in the moments when you are centered, anchored, and listening to yourself. I know, my sister, it's not always easy. We live in a world that pushes us to doubt ourselves, to seek answers outside, to ask everyone's opinion except our own. But a woman who learns to listen to her intuition becomes a woman who walks with confidence, who does not let herself be manipulated, who no longer gets lost in the illusions of others. And this confidence, it sets you free. Then there is patience, that forgotten pillar in a world that glorifies immediacy. Patience, my sister, is a form of strength that is not seen but that changes everything. It is not passive. It is not weakness. It is that deep breath that reminds you that everything has its time, that everything that is meant for you will come to you, but not always when you want it to. To understand divine timing is to accept that life has a rhythm that is not our own, that some flowers take time to blossom, that some blessings arrive through unexpected paths. A wise woman does not rush. She knows how to wait, not in anxiety but in faith. She knows that the universe is always working for her, even when everything seems still. She does not force doors that are not ready to open, because she knows that forcing is going against the current of life. Patience is not resignation, it is an active trust, a peace that says, I am ready, and I welcome what is meant to come when the time is right. Patience also teaches us humility. It teaches us that we do not control everything, that we cannot always decide everything. It teaches us to surrender to that which is greater than us, to that divine intelligence that orchestrates our lives much better than we could. And in this surrender, my sister, there is no loss. There is only freedom. Because when you stop fighting against time, you start to live truly, to savor every moment without waiting for tomorrow. Finally, there is compassion. This powerful gentleness that allows us to love without losing ourselves, to reach out without forgetting ourselves, to understand without judging. Compassion is not naivety. It is not letting oneself be trampled. It is not accepting the unacceptable. It is that gaze that sees beyond wounds, beyond mistakes, to understand that every human being carries their burdens, their pains, their invisible stories. A wise woman does not close herself off to others, even when she has been hurt. She knows how to set clear boundaries, but she does it without harshness, without hatred, because she knows that hatred is only a poison that destroys us from within. Compassion, my sister, begins with you. Before offering it to the world, you must offer it to your own heart. Learn to speak to yourself with gentleness, to forgive your mistakes, to welcome yourself in your moments of weakness. As long as you judge yourself, as long as you criticize yourself, as long as you refuse to see your own humanity, you cannot offer true love to others. Compassion is that breath that says, I am human, and that is perfectly fine. When you treat yourself with compassion, you change everything. Your relationships become gentler, your gaze becomes kinder, your heart becomes lighter. You no longer expect others to fill that void within you because you have learned to fill yourself. And from that space of fullness, you can love truly, without fear, without dependence, without destructive attachment. These three pillars, intuition, patience, and compassion, are like the branches of the same tree. They nourish each other. The more you listen to your intuition, the more you develop your patience, because you know that what calls to you will come at the right time. The more you cultivate your patience, the more you develop your compassion, because you understand that everyone moves at their own pace. The more you live in compassion, the clearer your intuition becomes, because your heart is open and at peace. A wise woman is not perfect. She sometimes stumbles, she sometimes doubts, she sometimes gets lost, but she always returns to these pillars. She returns to her intuition, to find the way. She returns to her patience, to calm her inner storms. She returns to her compassion, to heal her wounds, and it is this constant return, this daily practice, that makes her a quiet force, a light for herself and for others. I tell you, my sister, you don't have to wait to be ready to begin to embody this wisdom. It is already there, within you, even if it is still sleeping. Start today. Take a moment of silence. Listen to that little voice you have too often ignored. Breathe and remember that everything happens in its own time, even what you think you have lost. Offer yourself the gentleness you have always sought elsewhere, and walk. Walk with confidence, with slowness, with love. Because a woman who walks on this path, a woman who chooses to live through intuition, patience, and compassion, becomes unstoppable. Not because she is tough, not because she shouts louder, but because she has found what the world can neither give nor take away from her: a deep, indestructible, eternal peace. The art of silent observation, my sister, is a subtle but powerful force, a path that few choose because it requires humility, patience, and great self-control. In a world where everything pushes us to react quickly, to speak loudly, to respond without thinking, learning to be silent to better see, to better understand, becomes a true wisdom. It is a rare key that only a woman who has chosen to walk in consciousness can hold in her hands. To observe without judgment, without immediate reaction, is like placing yourself on a mountain and looking at the world below, without letting yourself be carried away by the storms that agitate the valley. When you learn to observe, you begin to see things as they are, and not as your mind, your wounds, or your emotions want to show them to you. Silent observation is not an escape. It is not a retreat out of fear of living. It is a conscious choice to slow down to perceive the truth behind appearances. For you see, my sister, the truth does not always show itself in noise. It reveals itself in silences, in looks, in gestures, in the words that are not said. When you are in this state of observation, you discover a new dimension of things. You notice details that you had never seen before because your mind is no longer busy judging, reacting, wanting to be right. You become a witness, a clear and peaceful witness. And in this role, there is no anger, no fear, no impatience. There is only a deep presence, a presence that offers you the power to understand before speaking, to feel before acting. Silence on this path is not an absence, it is a presence. It is not empty, it is full of wisdom, peace, and clarity. Many are afraid of silence because it highlights everything they are trying to flee. Their wounds, their insecurities, their unacknowledged desires. But a wise woman, she welcomes silence. She knows that it is only by remaining still, even in the storm, that she can hear what the world is trying to tell her. Silence allows you to observe others without judging them. When someone speaks, you are no longer busy preparing your response. You are truly listening. You hear their words, but also what is hidden behind them, their fears, their expectations, their wounds. And by understanding this, you no longer react with impulsiveness. You are no longer in the need to defend yourself or attack. You become a calm mirror, and this calmness has a power that words cannot equal. This silence also allows you to understand the situations you find yourself in. Instead of getting agitated, instead of running in all directions, you take a step back. You observe. You analyze without letting your emotions dominate you. You learn that everything has a meaning, even what seems chaotic in the moment. This distance allows you to make aligned decisions that come from your inner wisdom and not from your wounds or your anger. There is in silent observation a self-mastery that impresses those who watch you. Not because you appear cold or distant, but because you emit an energy of stability, of peace, that commands respect. You become that woman who doesn't need to shout to be heard, who doesn't need to defend herself to be respected because her calmness is her strength. But don't think that this happens effortlessly. It is a practice, a daily training. You have to learn to be silent where you were used to responding too quickly. You have to learn to breathe before speaking. You have to learn to observe the emotions that arise within you without immediately obeying them. At first, it will be difficult. Your ego will want to defend itself, to respond, to prove. But the more you practice, the more you discover that true power is in self-control. Take a concrete example, my sister. Imagine that someone attacks you, criticizes you unfairly. The old version of you would have responded immediately, with anger or sarcasm. But the wise woman, she breathes. She observes the situation without getting carried away. She asks herself, is this person really talking about me? Or are they talking about their own wounds, their own fears? And often the answer is clear. What others say about you is only a reflection of what they carry within them. So you choose silence. Not because you are weak, but because you refuse to enter a fight that doesn't belong to you. This silence is not indifference. It is a strategy of wisdom. It offers you a sacred space to reflect, to recenter yourself, to choose a response that uplifts instead of bringing down. And sometimes, my sister, the best response is not to respond at all. Because not everything deserves your energy, not everything deserves your peace. Observing in silence is also about learning about yourself. When you are in this posture, you begin to notice your own reactions, your own patterns, your own triggers. You understand why certain words hurt you, why certain behaviors irritate you, why certain situations awaken emotional storms within you. And in this understanding, you find a new freedom, that of no longer being a prisoner of your automatic reactions. Little by little, you become that woman who moves through the world with gentleness and assurance, that woman who inspires confidence and respect without ever raising her voice. You no longer need to justify yourself. You no longer need to prove anything. Your silence becomes your most beautiful weapon, not to hurt, but to protect your peace. And you will see, my sister, that this silence attracts good things to you. Because silence connects you to your intuition, and your intuition always guides you toward what is right. You begin to see people's real intentions without them needing to speak. You sense energies even before they manifest. And thanks to this, you avoid traps. You make clearer decisions. You choose more aligned paths. Practice again and again the art of silent observation. Every day offer yourself moments of calm. Turn off the external noise but also the internal noise. Sit in silence, observe your thoughts passing without judging them. Learn to be present without wanting to control everything, and you will see that in this silence the world becomes clearer, the answers become obvious, and your inner peace becomes unshakable. Because deep down, my sister, silence is a language that only awakened hearts understand. And when you choose to walk in this language, you become that rare woman, that profound woman, who doesn't need to speak loudly to be heard, because her soul speaks for itself, with gentleness, with power, with love. My sister, there is a silent force that few know, an inner light that shines only when one has understood the subtle art of detachment. Many confuse detachment with disinterest or indifference, but this is a profound mistake. Detachment is not a cold heart or a closed soul. It is, on the contrary, an openness, a state of peace that is born when we stop clinging to what no longer nourishes our essence. It is this wisdom that teaches you that not everything that enters your life is meant to stay, that certain things, certain people, certain seasons are just passages to teach you, to transform you, to prepare you for another chapter. Clear water remains only in a pure vessel. Remember these words, my sister. They are an eternal truth. If your inner space is cluttered with pains you refuse to let go of, with angers you refuse to calm, with attachments that drag you down, how can you hope to welcome the clarity, serenity, and light that are your birthright? Purifying your inner vessel is choosing to let go of what muddies your water, what prevents your light from shining fully. Detachment begins with an awareness. It is looking at your life with honesty and asking yourself, what am I still holding on to that no longer has a place here? What energies, what relationships, what beliefs still weigh down my heart? Too often, we cling out of fear, out of habit, out of a need for control. We cling to people who no longer respect us, to situations that consume us, to memories that prevent us from moving forward. And in this attachment, we forget a simple but essential truth. Everything that is meant for you will never hurt you. Everything that truly belongs to you will not leave you. Detachment, my sister, is not abandoning love. It is understanding that true love is not possession. To love someone does not mean to hold them back at all costs, to chain them to your life or your expectations. To love is to leave the other person free. It is to honor their path even when it moves away from yours. It is watching a door close without trying to force it open, because you know that what is in alignment with your soul cannot flee from you. There is an immense power in this letting go. When you let go of what no longer nourishes your soul, you create space. And this space, my sister, is never empty. It attracts more aligned energies to you, gentler experiences, people who vibrate with your truth. But for this process to happen, you must have the courage to let go. You must accept that some things are not meant to last, that some relationships were only there for a chapter, that some pains are only there to show you where you need to heal. Detachment is also understanding that life is movement. Nothing is static, everything changes, everything evolves. Seasons follow one another, tides rise and fall, flowers blossom and wither. And we, in this flow, must learn to dance with change. The more you cling, the more you suffer, because you refuse to follow the current of life. But when you let go, when you accept the movement, you discover a lightness, a peace that nothing can disturb. And I know, my sister, that it is not easy. Letting go is sometimes confronting your deepest fears, fear of solitude, fear of the unknown, fear of not being loved. But it is precisely by walking through these fears that you discover your strength. You understand that you don't need anything or anyone to be complete, because your completeness does not depend on the outside. It is already within you, in your heart, in your soul. When you practice detachment, you become that woman who moves through life with grace and assurance. You no longer need to run after what does not choose you. You no longer need to force things or beg for love, attention, or respect. You know that what is aligned with you will come to you naturally, effortlessly, without a struggle. You become a magnet for beautiful energies, for true relationships, for experiences that lift your soul. But detachment is not a destination. It is a daily practice. Every day you must learn to observe what you are still clinging to. Every day you must have the courage to ask yourself the real questions. Does this situation nourish my peace? Does this relationship respect my worth? Do these thoughts uplift me or imprison me? And when the answer is no, you must be wise enough to say, I choose to free myself. The art of detachment also protects you from toxic energies. When you know who you are, when you are at peace with yourself, you no longer need to stay in spaces where you are not honored. You are no longer afraid to say no, to set boundaries, to leave when your soul tells you that it is no longer your place. And that is not coldness, my sister. That is love. Love for yourself, for your energy, for your peace. Because you know that you are precious, that your inner space is sacred, and that you do not have to let it be polluted by what does not honor you. With time, you will see that this detachment becomes a quiet strength. You react less. You observe more. You are no longer disturbed by external storms because you have built an inner peace that nothing and no one can shake. And in this peace you find a clarity, a lucidity that allows you to make the right decisions, to move forward with confidence, to welcome what comes and to let go of what leaves. Remember, my sister, clear water remains only in a pure vessel. If you want your life to be clear, gentle and peaceful, purify your inner vessel. Free yourself from grudges, fears and unhealthy attachments. Make your heart a sanctuary where only pure energies, true intentions and sincere loves have a place. For it is only in this sacred emptiness that fullness can come, that blessings can manifest. And when you look back, you will understand that everything you let go of was just a weight that was preventing you from rising. You will understand that every departure was a liberation, that every loss brought you closer to yourself, that every act of detachment made you stronger, more luminous, more free. So, my sister, choose today to stop clinging. Choose to walk lightly, chosen by yourself, guided by your peace. Choose to let go with gratitude of what is no longer for you. And look, observe how life becomes gentler, more aligned, more beautiful when you understand the sacred art of detachment. My sister, wisdom is not a distant concept or an idea locked in ancient books. True wisdom lives in the breath of every moment, in the gaze you cast upon your life, in the way you choose to walk your path. It is not a garment you put on to impress the world. It is a second skin, an energy that is infused into every gesture, every word, every silence. To embody wisdom is to accept that the present is your only temple, that it is here, now, that your peace, your strength, your truth are built. To be anchored in the present moment, my sister, is to understand that the past is a shadow that lives only in your memories, and that the future is only a projection of your mind. Only this second, this breath, this respiration is real. When you are here, in the present, you become free. Free from regrets, free from expectations, free from all those illusions that make you believe that happiness will come tomorrow or that it escaped you yesterday. Happiness, serenity and wisdom are never anywhere else but in what you are living now, in what you are choosing now. And this presence, you can cultivate it every day, in the simplest moments, in the routine that sometimes seems mundane but which, with consciousness, becomes sacred. There is no need for great ceremonies to be wise, my sister. Wisdom is woven in the gentleness of daily gestures. When you drink your tea in the morning, feel the warmth that warms your hands, the scent that rises gently, the silence of this moment when the world has not yet asked anything of you. When you walk, listen to the rhythm of your steps, feel the earth beneath your feet, the wind that brushes your skin. When you speak, choose your words with gentleness, like flowers that you place in the hearts of those who listen to you. This is how you transform your ordinary life into an offering, into a sacred space. Wisdom in your relationships begins with the calm that you choose to cultivate within yourself. You cannot offer peace if your heart is agitated. You cannot radiate gentleness if your mind is at war. So, take the time, my sister, to come back to yourself before responding, before reacting. When a word hurts you, breathe. When a criticism reaches you, observe the silence before speaking. Calmness is not weakness. It is a strength that disarms storms. It allows you to see beyond immediate emotions, to understand the wounds behind the words, to choose the response that heals rather than the one that hurts. At work, in your home, in every space where you set foot, be the breath that soothes. Wisdom is not to withdraw from the world, but to walk in the world with a presence that transforms everything around you. When others are running, you move forward with slowness and assurance. When others are agitated in the noise, you choose inner silence. And it is this calm that becomes your signature, this silence that becomes your power. You become that silent lighthouse that souls seek without saying it, that presence that reassures, that inspires, that uplifts without imposing. But for this wisdom to become a habit, it must be nourished. It is not a gift that is received once and for all. It is a garden that must be cultivated every day. Meditation, my sister, is not just a moment of sitting in silence with your eyes closed. It is a state of consciousness that is lived in every gesture. But start gently. Offer yourself a few minutes each morning before the world invites itself into your thoughts. Breathe, observe. Let the thoughts pass without clinging to them. In this silence, you hear the voice of your soul, clear, gentle, and deep. Gratitude is also a powerful path to wisdom. Being grateful, even for small things, transforms your view of life. Every evening, write down 3 things for which you are grateful. It can be a smile you saw, sunlight on your face, a moment of calm stolen from the chaos of the day. The more you are grateful, the more you see beauty everywhere. And the more you see beauty, the more peaceful your heart becomes. Gratitude does not change the world around you, my sister. It changes your gaze, and that gaze changes everything. Intuitive writing is another sacred ritual that anchors you in your truth. Every day, take a notebook, a pen, and write without thinking. Write your emotions, your thoughts, your dreams, your wounds. Let the words flow like a river, without judging them, without holding them back. This practice frees your mind. It cleanses your inner vessel so that your water remains clear. And in these pages, sometimes you will discover answers you were not expecting, truths you already carried but which silence has revealed. Being wise in daily life is not about being perfect, my sister. It is about accepting your flaws, your emotions, your imperfections, but choosing each day to return to yourself, to remember that peace is a choice you can make again and again. Even when the world around you is agitated, even when challenges arise, you can choose to remain anchored, to remain gentle, to remain at peace. Remember that wisdom is not a destination, it is a path. There will not be a day when you wake up and say to yourself, "That's it, I have arrived." Because life is movement, because you will always be evolving, because each day will offer you new lessons, new invitations to practice what you already know. And it is in this constant practice, in this daily attention, that your light grows. You do not need to compare yourself. You do not need to chase an ideal version of yourself. Wisdom is being fully present in what you are now, while opening your heart to what you can become. It is getting up each morning with the intention of walking gently, of speaking with kindness, of treating yourself with love. With time, you will see that these small gestures, these silent rituals, uplift you without noise. You will become that woman who is noticed without knowing why. That woman whose presence calms storms. That woman whose words carry the gentle weight of experience and peace. And this is not because you do great things, but because you do the small things with consciousness, with love, with respect for yourself and for the world around you. My sister, to embody wisdom in daily life is to live each moment as a prayer. It is to transform each breath into an offering, each gaze into gratitude, each gesture into meditation. It is to understand that you are the guardian of your inner temple, and that you can nourish this temple with silence, with peace, with light. And when you walk like this, with this consciousness, the world around you changes. You become the living proof that wisdom is not an idea, but an art of living, an art of loving, an art of being. After this journey that we have traveled together, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let these words, these images, and these truths anchor themselves gently in your heart. Female wisdom is not a mountain to climb or an inaccessible perfection. It is there within you, alive, ready to flourish every day in the way you think, love, act, and choose. We have learned together that wisdom is not just intelligence, but a dance between the heart, the mind, and the soul. That it reveals itself when you choose to act with consciousness rather than reacting with emotion. That your strength is found in the silence you cultivate, in that ability to observe without judging, to understand without getting attached. We talked about intuition, that gentle but powerful voice that always whispers the truth, provided that you leave it space. We talked about patience, that sacred gift that reminds you that everything comes in its own time, that every flower opens at its own rhythm. We explored compassion, that light that allows you to love without losing yourself, to give without emptying yourself, to welcome without betraying yourself. We have understood together that silent observation is a golden key, that in this noisy world, silence is not a void but a treasure, a tool to better see, better hear, better understand. And that detachment, far from being a coldness, is an act of love toward yourself, the choice to keep in your inner space only what nourishes your soul, only what uplifts your light. And then, my sister, we talked about embodying wisdom in daily life, about making every gesture an offering, every moment a meditation, about transforming simple, small rituals, breathing, writing, being grateful, into doors to a more peaceful, more aligned and more luminous life. Remember this truth. Being wise does not mean being perfect. Being wise is simply choosing, again and again, peace in the midst of storms. It is choosing clarity when the mind is agitated. It is choosing love when anger or fear want to take up all the space. To be wise is to accept that you will sometimes fall, but always to get back up with gentleness, forgiving yourself, learning, and moving forward. Today, I invite you to keep these words in your heart and to let them live in your actions. Walk in the world with this silent light that inspires without noise, that uplifts without imposing, that touches without forcing. Be that woman who chooses every day to listen before speaking, to understand before judging, to love before fearing. And because this wisdom is not a path that one walks alone, I invite you, my sister, to subscribe to the Wise Women, to this community of hearts that, like you, seek to live more deeply, more consciously, more luminously. Share this light around you. Send this video to a sister, a friend, a mother, a daughter, to any woman who needs to remember that her strength, her beauty, her peace are already there, within her, ready to radiate. Every share is a seed. Every word exchanged, every conversation sparked around this female wisdom is a breath that nourishes the world. Together, we are creating a space where gentleness becomes power, where silence becomes a language, where love becomes the foundation of our steps. So, my sister, walk. Hold your head high, open your heart, and choose, again and again, to shine. Because the world needs this light that only you can offer.